rule, which is unlike almost any other state in the United States, whereby you can't pass a tax increase without 2/3 of the legislature. You know, all of these came together, I think, and we are now feeling the cumulative effect of the initiative process impact on the budget, plus the legislative 2/3, plus a polarization in American politics that we've seen grow for the last 15 to 20 years, whereby in the state of California, the Republicans actually, they had to take an anti-tax pledge in order to get their party's nomination. And that's had a very powerful impact on their solidarity to be that 1/3 plus one vote that will prevent the state legislature from raising taxes. So I view this as a product of a lot of synergistic forces, political forces.
But I would go one step further and suggest that we value fear more than we value love. And when you act from a place of fear versus a place of, and there is no in between. And so when you look at the level of funding that we provide for prisoners in this state and how we have funded the prison industrial complex in this state as opposed to funding education in this state, for me that is problematic. And what's at the core of that? Who is in our prisons? Who do they look like? Mostly. They look mostly like moi. What is that about? How have we not looked at how we are interconnected to think about what happens to you happens to me? And why have we not reinvested, I think, for the most part, in education? Because we're spending $45,000 a year to put a prisoner, to house a prisoner, and it costs $20 to go to Berkeley. Just add it up. And who's benefiting by that? Definitely not students of this campus, and definitely not the citizens of this state. So I think if we don't continue to figure out how we as a coalition think about what we value and put the pressure there, then what we have will remain a status quo.
My name is Heather and I'm a fourth year. And it's true that these fees have been increasing for over the past decade. And it seems to me like this 30% increase is really the inevitability of the privatization of this institution. And as these fees have increased, the transparency of the region's decisions has decreased, and there is nothing public about that. So when are we going to get to see a budget? And I'm not talking about the really ambiguous budget that's available online, because nobody can understand that one.
So I think there'll be a couple of things you'll see online between now and the end of the year. The first thing will be a budget primer, which will go up around Thanksgiving, which will outline kind of the big broad picture of the budget, the process, and the forces. And then as we go towards January, there'll be another document put online which gives the detail that you're looking for. It's separate from, I would say, so I should have preference, that's for UC Berkeley, that's not for the regions.
When is that one going up? Because that's what we need and that's what we want.
Senior, and I've gone to California public schools since preschool. And I've benefited a lot from them. And so I have a two-part question. The previous person took part of the question, but the two parts are related. The first one is, how do you propose to keep public education accessible without privatization? And how, I'm sure you're aware of, excuse me, I've forgotten, Bob Meister's report at UC Santa Cruz on the budget, and especially on construction, and on the way that tuition funds are being used to guarantee bonds for construction projects, which benefit numerous people, including Richard Blum, who's a regent. one thing on this campus is the construction project at Bull Hall, which is of the courtyard. So I wonder if you can defend the ongoing construction projects and relate them to accessibility.
So in terms of how our debt is structured, it is true that there's a general revenue pledge that's pledged to the bondholders, but I wanted to give you a flavor of which revenues actually are used to repay the debt service. 43%, nearly half, is housing, parking, and other auxiliary revenues. 35% is contracts and grants, so this means the research buildings such as Citrus, the debt is being repaid off of a portion of the money that comes in conjunction with the grants that actually fund the research in those buildings. 12% of the money that pays the debt is leasing, university extension, and then 10% is paid for from student-approved specific fees. An example is at UC Irvine, they have a new student center. The students voted for a fee to pay for that center, and that is the student fee portion that goes to the system debt. When we look at construction projects, a number of the construction projects going on campus have dedicated revenue, and unfortunately, not all of the revenue on campus is fungible. So if you have debt that has been issued for a construction project, you have to use that money for that construction project. You can't use it for any other purpose. Similarly, a number of the projects on campus have restricted donor funds attached. So these donors have given the money to the campus specifically to build a building such as Lee Kai-shing or the Berkeley Health Sciences building at the entrance to campus, and we can't redirect those funds to another purpose.
In terms of accessibility, I in part addressed that earlier, and just to repeat it. As I explained, for our undergraduate students, specifically those whose family income is in the $45,000 or less range and therefore eligible for federal Pell Grants. In fact, the reality is we've been quite successful over the last 5 years in holding the self-help level constant. So we've kept accessibility and therefore the number of low-income students from low-income families has stayed relatively constant. But as I said already, also, frankly, with these huge fee increases, which were just referred to, this has raised a new challenge for the middle class, and we have to find new resources in order to provide the requisite financial aid. Now, I chaired a committee for the system as a whole looking at this with various strategies suggested, and one of the ones which I advocated for most strongly personally was to increase the return to aid from a third up progressively up to 40%. And not all of the campuses in the UC system were willing to do this, but we were here at Berkeley. But then the current financial crisis has really caused us to postpone that, and so I wish that we could proceed more rapidly. But if we do that, then those funds are going to come out of other already completed sources.
And I live at Rochdale Village, which is a co-op in Berkeley, and it's one of the most affordable apartment complexes here in Berkeley, probably the most affordable for students. And the lease is currently up for renewal. And I was wondering if you will stand in support of affordable housing, or for affordable housing for students on our campus, because what I've heard is that in the recent negotiations, there have been some scare tactics going on the part of the university. So I'd like to know how you feel about that. And knowing that 80% of the students that live at Rochdale are members of the Equal Opportunity Program, and really just how you feel.
So Ricardo, good to see you again. I have not yet looked in detail at the Rochdale situation, so I can't give an off the top of my head statement on that.
Yeah, but I can. So I will. So, and some of you may know it, but don't. I have been working with the co-op community. I had a meeting with them on Monday. I have another meeting with them and my Vice Chancellor, Harry Grant, on Monday the 9th. There's also a committee of folks from the campus that includes folks from the leasing office and includes folks from Residence Life and others to look at what is really going on. I've also been in contact with my colleague over here, Barbara Davis, who oversees the EOP program, who's also made it very aware. There are many folks who understand really the legitimate issues that are going on with Rochdale as a part of the co-op community and what kinds of support it provides to students, particularly those who are disabled, and the students who are from the UOP community. So what I can say to you is that that is an ongoing conversation, and I have told the students that I will work with them to make sure that those concerns are heard, so that as we make decisions,